Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our iOS development using UIKit tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at the UI switch. Now, what is the UI switch? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a switch. It's often referred to as a toggle, right? So this control has an on and an off state. There's no text input or anything like that. It's just simply an on-off switch. This control has a knob and that looks similar to, if not the same, as the UI slider we covered a little bit ago. And this knob goes along a track, and this track is usually green. You can see a UI switch in action in the iOS settings because they are pretty much everywhere. UI switches are a fundamental part of iOS, so it's fundamental that you understand exactly how these work, right? As we go through this, we are going to notice some accessibility issues with the UI switch that can easily be rectified, but I want you to figure out how to rectify it as sort of a challenge. I will nudge you in the right direction, but I want you to do some Googling and read some documentation to figure out how exactly we can fix this accessibility issue, right? So let's get started. Right now, I have a UI label set up, as well as constraints set up for the UI label. I also have the constraints set up for our UI switch, though we don't have a UI switch to constrain yet. And we haven't configured any UI switch yet. So let's go ahead and go into Xcode and do that. So in Xcode, at the top of our view controller, what we're going to do is we are going to say var world takeover toggle equals UI switch. Now, of course, with this example, it's just a little bit of tongue-in-cheek about AI taking over the world, kind of playing on people's fear, right? To be clear, that's not gonna happen, and that's not what this example is going to do. But I just wanted to make it a little bit interesting. Okay, so now that we have our UI switch, most of our errors are going to go away. So we don't have any physical errors in the code or anything like that. We don't have Xcode yelling at us, but we don't have our UI switch configured or set up to support programmatic constraints. So let's go ahead and go into our configure switch method here. Okay, yep. And let's go ahead and configure our toggle switch. I'm gonna kind of give this a little bit more room on screen here. All right, so inside of our configure switch method, we are first going to configure the tint color for the track on our switch, so you can see that we can in fact customize that. So let's say world takeover switch, or world takeover toggle rather. dot on track tint color. We want on tint color. That's what it is. On tint color is going to be a UI color, and we'll set this to system purple. All right, so system purple. Now instead of a bright green, kind of a lime green color for our track, it's going to be a nice vibrant purple. So after that, let's determine its on or off state. So this is going to be its default state. We're going to say that it's on initially. So we'll say world takeover toggle. The world takeover toggle, I'm sorry, dot is on. We're going to set that equal to true because this is a Boolean property. All right. Next, we're going to translate auto resizing mask into constraints. Set that to false. Translates auto resizing mask into constraints. Set that equal to false, like that. And then we need to say view dot add subview, and this is going to be our world takeover toggle. All right, so now that we have this configured, we can run our code. But first, let's take a look at what we have for our constraints, I guess, because I want to make sure you guys know exactly what we're doing. All right. Right. So the first thing is that we are pinning our label to the center of the screen vertically. So vertically we're centering it, and then we are setting the label to be 20 units from the trailing edge of our safe area, which is just the screen itself when we're talking about portrait mode. But to adapt for landscape, we're making sure that we're using the safe area layout guide, so we're not going past the safe area, past the notch in the phone and all that. All right. Next, the switch is being pinned as well vertically at the center of the screen, but it is also being pinned to the trailing edge of the safe area, 20 pixels from the trailing area, or trailing edge of the safe area, I should say. And then the label is being pinned to the switch's leading edge, 20 pixel, or not so much pixels, but units away from that. All right, so let's go ahead and save this, and we will run our code now. Let it load, do its thing. Okay. And so here we are. Here's our switch and our label. You can see the track for the switch is purple. And we have our little label there. I wasn't sure how many lines it was going to take up. So I made sure it took so I made sure that it had a maximum of 2 lines and all that kind of stuff. But now if we go to our toggle switch, it just says on switch. There's no label for it. We can toggle it on and off. You know, we can do all that stuff, and it works fine. But for assistive technologies, there's no label assigned to this toggle switch. Now, if you are using Mac Catalyst, for example, so if the user interface idiom is Mac, there is a text property that you can use that will render a textual label next to the switch, as long as it's a checkbox style switch. Now, iOS itself doesn't support a checkbox style switch because that's macOS specific. But Mac Catalyst does, right? So this text property should only be used when in Mac Catalyst mode. If your app supports it, that is. So keep that in mind. That is not the solution to our accessibility problem. There are specific accessibility properties that can be modified, though. All right? So I want you to, as a challenge, look through the UI view documentation. This is where that'll be found. You'll find this in the UI view documentation. If not, you would be able to find it as well inside of Xcode by looking through all the different properties for the autocomplete, because it is there. But you shouldn't just apply a property to the switch. There's also another property that can be applied to our UI label to make sure that an assistive technology doesn't focus on the label, doesn't see it as an accessibility element. Right? So in this scenario, something like that would work. But there are other scenarios where you're going to want a different solution, and we'll take a look at those later. But for now, I want you to go on a documentation hunt for this. Okay? That is my first challenge to you. My second challenge to you is to figure out how we can detect the value changes of our switch. How do we perform code based on when the value changes? Well, I'll give you a hint on that one. We've done it twice before, so you should know how to do it by now. If you can't do it on your own, if you can't figure it out, watch the UI segmented control and UI slider videos again. All right? So that pretty much does it for this video on the UI switch. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.